like to add a few comments from the perspective of social psychology to the current corona crisis. Over the course of the last few months, the coronavirus crisis has developed into a major international challenge. Hardly any person on Earth, or at least so it seems, remains unaffected. Governments around the globe pose restrictions on social life. The population is asked to practice what is called social distancing. This involves the closure of non-essential governmental agencies, private companies, airports and train stations, and other non-essential institutions in public places. In some countries, social distancing also involves confinement measures which force people to stay at home or avoid public places. In this situation, psychologists and health experts, mostly from Western societies, give their advice and inform the general public about what they do to be appropriate behavior. Just to give you two examples. Dr. Jerome Adams, the US Surgeon General, says, "Stay at home, if possible. Don't go out on any unnecessary travel or trips, and make sure you're staying away from crowded places like movie theaters and concerts." The director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases informs us that you can actually socially distance yourself from your workplace by doing teleworking. You can socially distance yourself from people in social settings by not going to bars, not going to restaurants and theaters, where there are a lot of people. It's all just so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you. If we look at the restrictions currently imposed on people and the simultaneous call for solidarity, we might be able to identify a mismatch. If social distancing is practiced in the way it is prescribed, we stop to exchange between people. It's a deliberate attempt to shut down what seems impossible to uphold, given the immediate threat. As the German sociologist and social psychologist Georg Simmel convincingly argues, society is, however, based on exchange. Not just monetary exchange, but exchange of all kinds of cultural artifacts between people. It is within this exchange that we enact sacrifice, that we give to each other. For a kind word, we receive a smile. For a noble gesture, we're thanked. For the good I do to others, good will come to me. In exchange, we give more than we have, and we receive more than we have given. It is through exchange that we draw others closer to us, that we reduce our social and emotional distance to others. It is in this exchange that we practice true solidarity. The German philosopher Martin Heidegger describes our ability to practice what he calls Sorge, or care in English, and Fürsorge, translated as concern, as fundamental parts of our existence in the world. He, however, differentiates between two kinds of concern. First, the one which does someone's job for them and dominates them. Secondly, the one which is in advance of the other and frees them. It is the second kind that emerges between people. The first one we impose on others. The second one emerges in solidarity, the first in domination. It is imposed on others, comes from an authoritative position, and actively aims to restrict the other's agency. It is this first kind of concern that states and governments rely on in order to practice population control. The public is told to stop any exchange, to wear masks, to distance from each other socially. In a paradoxical fashion, we're told to stop society in order to uphold it. It's an expression of a concern on average, which is not to concern with the concrete individual, but with measures that have effect on a large scale. Such arguments become particularly appealing and convincing if the majority is included in the group of potential providers of such concern that dominates others. The public discourse, therefore, incapacitates the so-called elderly and people at risk to decide for themselves, and claims that our social distancing will save their lives. If, however, we want to instill agency into people, if we want to live in solidarity, we have to do our best to uphold social exchange. We need to practice Martin Heidegger's second kind of concern, the one which is in advance of the other and frees them. Beyond social distancing, we would need to try and find ways to create support systems that allow people to engage with each other with personal agency. We would have to use more of our resources to explore alternative ways of exchange, of giving and receiving, of standing together in solidarity as the basis of our society.